All right, we are live. Shalom, shalom, Israel. The water for coming out in person. The water for watching online. Salaki, starting a little later than I wanted. Just kind of getting ready for all this. And today's going to be an interesting class. Very book heavy. It's going to be a continuation of last week's class. For those that don't know, a lot of the references we're going to be having is a book called The Two Babylons, Salaki, by Alexander Hislop. And we're just using this book to show the historical connections behind the origins of ancient paganistic customs and how it correlates to modern day pagan customs that have now morphed into Christianity and modern day Catholic religions today. Other than that, Shabbat Shalom, the water for attending, the water for watching again. Shout out to the brothers out there in Rochester right now celebrating the Passover. Wish we could be with y'all, but we'll see y'all soon. We will have our own Passover down here for those that didn't make the Rochester one on May 4th, if I'm not mistaken. As far as when we are starting the Feast of Unleavened Bread, that will be Saturday night. That is the 12th, the sundown of the 12th. All right. Again, bear with us with the reading. I'm going to try to not make this just book heavy, because I know that can be kind of tough if you're not having the book in your face, but it's going to be okay. We're going to get it done. Other than that, is there any questions before we get started? Okay. Shout out to the brothers in Rochester. Shout out to Cabo Cab in Guatemala, his camps, the people that are watching from Los Angeles, or California, and Atlanta, and we will get started. The title today is going to be called The Origins of Easter, the Mother and Wife of Nimrod. I said that correctly. The Easter is the mother and wife of Nimrod. Now, we understand and we know about the holiday Easter that's coming up. That's kind of why I was going this point last week as well. But before I can get to Easter, or otherwise known as Semiramis or Astarte, she's known by many, many names. She's been celebrated by many, many customs and cultures. So I'm not going to go down all the lists of the hundreds of names she's known by. But the couple we should acknowledge, or at least identify it with, is Semiramis, Astarte, and Easter. That name is synonymous to the same Mesopotamian goddess that was celebrated 1,500 years ago that we now celebrate now under the holiday of Easter. We'll get into proving how that's all the same. Before anything, let's get to the scriptures. Psalms 96 and verse 4 through 5. Psalms 96 and verse 4 through 5. Last week, just to kind of recap for those that missed and forgot, last week we explained how Nimrod became the motivation, the focus, and the inspiration behind the rebellion behind the Most High. Nimrod taught us that if we had enough skill, if we had enough ingenuity, we had enough finances, and we had the mind to do it, we could rebel against the Most High and still be protected. This is why he's known today as the quote-unquote God, lowercase God, of fortifications. He was the God who gave false securities. That's why last week was titled Nimrod, the false deliverer of the wicked, because he convinced us to think we no longer need the Most High's protection, and we can do what we want to do as long as we have enough skill and enough will-how to protect ourselves. Now we're going to show today how that character Nimrod, who represented free will, represented rebellion, was closely associated to his wife and his mother, Semiramis. So, before anything, give me Psalms 95. What did I say? 96 and verse 4. Yeah, read that.
Psalms 96 verse 4. It says, "For the Most High is great, and greatly to be praised. For it says he is to be feared above all gods."
It says the Most High needs to be feared before all gods. We're going to read and we're going to find out there's many different names for many different gods out there. Who people, who man have dignified and honored and deified as being more than what they really are. And we got to constantly remind ourselves that no matter what ideal or doctrine or tradition we might have been brought up with, or we might have saw and at one point believed was right, there's no power that is next to or as influential as the Most High. Read that again.
Psalms 96 verse 4. "For the Most High is great, and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods.
So that means his customs, his traditions, his way of thinking, and the direction he wants our lives needs to be the priority over any other ideology that we are convinced and instructed in the world. That's how you honor. That's how you show you fear and respect the Most High. Read on.
For all the gods of the nations are idols.
All the gods of the nations are idols. They did not exist before in the beginning of time and beginning of creation. They were conjured, created, and they were individuals or actions done by people that were deified and exemplified. What's another word for it? And honored more than what they should have been. For instance, people were so willing to deify anybody. If you did anything that was miraculous or out of the norm, you were considered a god. When you read in Acts, I was going to put it in the class, but it's too much. When you read in Acts, when Paul was going in and healing people with the palsy, what was their first statements? You must be who?
Apollo.
Jupiter. Which is Nimrod.
Oh.
What we were constantly doing is, if we saw works that were out of the ordinary, or for instance, I think it was, he also got bit by snakes. Mm-hmm. When he got bit by a poison snake and he didn't die, they said, you must be a god. We couldn't associate spirituality with it being tied to the Most High. We always had to deify it and make it more than what it was and what it was supposed to be. That's just in human nature. Because we'd rather deify a creature that we can see every day, that does things supremely better than us, than an entity that we can't see, but we know exists through its creations. We know there's an entity whose intellect is so high that he created every single functioning structure in society today. But because we can't see it, I'll deify the human. I'll deify the creature. All right. So, let that go. Is that off in there? Read verse 5. Read verse 5 one more time.
Psalms 96 verse 5. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Most High made the heavens.
Okay, so the Most High made everything. The Most High is the one that flooded the earth when we were rebellious. He's the one that preserved us after our rebellion. He's the one that allowed us to keep producing. He's the one that chose Jacob of all the seeds of the world as the chosen seed. He's the one that's guided us out of Egypt during Moses. He's the one that preserved us when we were rebellious, and he's the one that kicked us out of our land and put us in slavery for 1,500 years. That's only the Most High. There was no other power that did that. So, now let's get back into the story. I'm going to read this part real quick. Again, we're reading from the book. We're just going to pick up on the story. Now, the Bible doesn't go too heavy into the Queen of Heaven, and for obvious reasons. Obviously, that was a strong pull for us. Now, there's some times when this person is mentioned, but in the beginning stories associated with Nimrod, she wasn't mentioned. But archaeology and history and how every culture has this person tied to him show that this person actually existed. This person it was actually someone who was served on a really heavy level. So I'll read from here. It's page 45 of the two Babylons. It says, now the story of Nimrod, as Ninus, that's another name for him, is that he fell in love with Semiramis when she was another man's wife. So the story is, Semiramis' first husband was Cush. Y'all remember Cush?
Yeah.
Who was Cush?
Father of the Ethiopian?
Yes. No, he wasn't.
We're not talking about the same one.
Cush. Cush was the bringer. He was the first son. Who was the son of Ham. He was the bringer of chaos, so to speak. He was the bringer of this other world doctrine that influenced or had a heavy influence on Nimrod, who became the distributor of said doctrine. So Cush is honored as kind of the progenitor of all the madness in the world. But the one who distributed, the one who exemplified it in bodily form was his son, and that was Nimrod. We're not glorifying this individual. He really means nothing, but for the sake of the story, we got to bring him up. And we got to acknowledge who this thing was, who this person was. So, the story is of Nimrod. He fell in love with Semiramis when she was another man's wife and took her for his own wife, whereby she became doubly fallen as a woman and fallen from the primitive faith in which she must have been brought up. All that mumble jumble doesn't really mean much. It just shows Nimrod did some dirtbag things. He took this other man's woman. Now, it doesn't get specific on who this other man's woman was or who this woman was, but we'll find out in a little bit. It says her name or her being was associated with the dove. Associated, it says, and after her death, she was worshipped among the Babylonians. So that's the first time we hear this person, right? Semiramis. Let's get Exodus 20 and verse 7 through 8. Exodus 20 and verse 7 through 8. Now what we're going to realize is the quote-unquote gods of the Babylonians were the same gods that were served in Egypt. The same deities or idols, I'll say idols, that the Most High was trying to get us to stop looking up to, stop venerating, stop dedicating our lives and our minds to. Give me Exodus 20 and verse 7.
God, Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain.
Keep reading. Through 8.
Verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Hold on. That's not it. Not Exodus. That's my mistake. Ezekiel. I believe it's Ezekiel. Hold on. Don't go yet. Let me triple check so I don't do another bone. Let me double check. Yes, it's Ezekiel. Salakia. Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 7 through 8.
Chapter 20, okay.
Ezekiel
chapter 20, starting at verse 7.
7 through 8. Yes, all right.
God. Ezekiel 20 and 7. Then said I unto them, cast ye away every man the abominations of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt.
And this was the point. It wasn't just the serving of the gods. It was what these quote-unquote idols represented. We understood Nimrod represented rebellion. He was called the god of rebellion. And when you start looking into the story and the connection of Semiramis or Easter, you start seeing she was also the quote-unquote god of liberty, but in other arenas as well. We have children here, so I'm not going to get too explicit, but this is where you get the quote-unquote alphabet concepts from. How you serve Semiramis is you tapping into that side, that left-hand side. It's all about duality. You got to tap into both sides. So you start seeing the connection. This is what we were giving our mind to. It wasn't just the name. It was the power and the influence of what we could do following those particular idols. All right. Keep reading.
End of 7. I am the Lord, your power. Verse 8. But they rebelled against me and would not hearken unto me. They did not, every man, cast away the abominations of their eyes.
And this is what you see over and over and over again. We saw in the beginning of time, after the flood, when the entire world was under the influence of Babylon, he changed our languages, and we still kept the idols. We just had the idols named after whatever language we spoke. If we spoke Chinese, it was Shenmue. If we spoke Egyptian, it was whatever. I'm not going to go into all these names. We had the name associated with the power. And we created the image to match them. All right? Keep reading.
Verse 8. They rebelled against me and would not hearken unto me. They did not every man cast away the abominations of their eyes. Neither did they forsake the idols of Egypt. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of the land of Egypt.
Because just like the Most High couldn't understand why we would choose to serve idols or a man that was trying to convince us he could be your protector, he can be your savior, he can be your support, when the Most High has been constantly blessing, constantly protecting, constantly putting hedges around us the entire time. Just like he couldn't understand it back then, he still couldn't understand it now. You have the laws, statutes, and commandments that I've guaranteed your success, your blessing, your health, your longevity, and you will still choose these idols that don't even exist. The concept didn't make any sense. But you know what it showed? We stuck to our what?
Our
Our traditions.
tradition, right.
We valued our traditions and the sentiment behind how our traditions make us feel and how our traditions made our parents feel. I'll tell you what, your kid can become faithful in something or unfaithful in something depending on how passionate you as a parent are. If you're passionate and you're telling your child from the moment they can speak and understand that this is who you got to serve, this is who's responsible for your success, this is who you need to give your life to and your motivation to, it's a hard demon to break. That is a hard implantation to break. But this is why the Bible says what? Train the child in the way he should go, he will not depart from it. Because just as easy it is to implant a child's mind to serve these idols and tell them this is the person who's blessing you, this is the entities in which are guiding your life, and there's your spiritual guardians and whatever, it's the same spirit in which we can instill in our children. This power, the Most High, we got to follow His rules and regulations to have success and protection in our lifestyle. We can do the same in the righteous side, but we didn't want to do that. You know why? Because our people are so stuck on history and tradition. We have more history and tradition following idols than we had serving the Most High properly. We'll tell ourselves, well, this goes back before Jacob. This goes back before Isaac and Abraham. I want to serve the idols that our forefathers served. This is what Nimrod was pushing. So why'd you take out our forefathers for just living their lives? Didn't we read that last week? They were just giving the marriage, living their life. Why did God take them out? It's because how they were living wasn't what the Most High wanted. There was restriction there. There was discipline that you had to live by. That lifestyle goes against our human nature to be free and be liberal and do what we want to do. So we'll give power and give concentration to the entities that give us the liberty to be and do what we want to do with no restriction. And we'll be convinced that as long as you can do what you want and still have success in your life. That's what we really want to hear. We don't want to be told you got to live a certain type of lifestyle, a structured lifestyle that goes against your natural inclinations to be successful. But I don't want to get into that yet. Let that go. Let's get into Deuteronomy 4, verse 14 through 24. Let me ask y'all a question. Why didn't the Most High show us an image of His being and His likeness when He took us out of Herod? What you got?
We were to worship it and made it deified.
Exactly. Hold on. Read that in verse 14.
Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 14.
And I'll ask you again. Read that.
And the Most High commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go over to possess it. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Most High spake unto you.
Because what was Israel itching to do? Israel was itching to attach the actions, those godly actions, with some type of image. We were itching for it. Because every other culture, every other history, or every other, I'll just say culture, nation of people have their magnificent stories and how their quote-unquote God did X, Y, and Z. We wanted the image to match the action. Mm-hmm. If He showed us image, who would we have attached that name to? Nimrod again. Yep. We were right back to serving Nimrod again. If He gave us an image of how he looked, or an aspect, or a characteristic, we would attach it right back to these false gods again. Through time. At first it would start off, this is the image of the Most High. And then when it gradually went back into this is Nimrod. Yep. This is the god of the goddess of the earth.
I believe we did that when the Most High first got Israel out of the land of Egypt, when they made that image of calf.
Yeah, it was Molech, which was Nimrod. We've been constantly trying to attach godly actions with this heroic figure in history, who taught us rebellion, who taught us you can be what you want, when you want, how you want. So He said, I'm not going to give you no image, because I already know your mindset. Read on.
Come. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Most High spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Verse 16. Lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image.
Because what we're going to do, we're going to make us an image. This person that got us, this thing that got us out of slavery, 10-day work weeks, was X and X idol.
And this is why we only heard his voice, because we can't make an image out of a voice.
Oh, we'll try.
We'll try.
we still made that. We still made the calf. He said, but I'm not going to give you definite proof of who I am. So I give you a definite face or a definite image or a definite similitude. You're going to do something with it. Silhouette, yeah. You're going to make something out of it. You're going to start selling for $15 at the mall and saying, this is God. It sounds really familiar. It sounds really familiar. You reading?
Lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female.
You're going to start singing songs how God is a woman now. This is happening right now.
Yep.
This is right now. Right now. This is happening.
And you got people that's pushing this new doctrine about mother goddess. There's a mother goddess.
This ain't no new doctrine. The point of this whole class, we're gonna show. This ain't no new doctrine. This is old. This is old time.
Yeah.
This is like
I'm just saying it's spit different as far as the story.
The stories get spit. It's different names. They all sound jazzed up a little differently.
Woman,
all that. Look, that's nothing new. What you read is because the son was deified, why not deify the mom? If you got a godly son, then the mom must be godly. That is the mentality behind this whole concept. That's where it comes from. And you start realizing this image surpassed the son image. We'll get into that.
But
hold on, we'll get into that. That's in the book. But keep reading.
And make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female.
So we weren't supposed to make any image that represented the Most High in a male figure or in a female figure. Regardless of what it stood for us, we weren't supposed to do it. Read on.
Verse 17. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth.
Because what you realize is all of these entities became modern day Nimrod and Startank.
Yep. Yeah.
When you look in the Chinese culture, the yin yang, what do you think the yin yang represents? Nimrod and the Startank. What do you think the dove represents? The symbol of femininity represents? The goddess.
The fish.
That's what I'm saying. The fish. The fish gods and the Most High was trying to let us know this is what's going to happen. Don't even give your mind to it. Because this trajectory had already been seen it for 1,000-year plus period. We're in Deuteronomy. This is what? 900, maybe 1,000. No, it's more. It's probably 1,500 A.D. That is a couple thousand, maybe 1,000 years before, but 1,000 years after the flood, or 1,000 years before, no, after the flood. Yeah. So I'm getting confused with the numbers. Moses was about 1,000 years after the flood. So we're seeing about 1,000 years of this idolatry already picking up and catching steam. Ancient civilizations keeping this trajectory over and over and over again. And we just went right ahead and we were lusting at it. We thought it was something cool. We thought it was ancient knowledge. We thought it was older than our own power. What you got? BC. I mean BC, my fault. BC. Before Christ. So, read on.
Verse 19. Unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun, and the moon, and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them, and serve them, which the Most High thy power hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven.
So, the whole goal was for us to not focus on the creation and the beauty of the creation, and focus on the person who is, one, created, and two, has a specific mission for you. That was the whole goal. Take away the imagery, take away the beauty of it, and focus on what this entity wants you to do in your life. What is your purpose in life? Don't create your own purpose. Don't establish your own mindset. Learn his mind. Keep reading.
Verse 20. But the Most High hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. Furthermore, the Most High was angry with me for your sakes, and swore that I should not go over Jordan, and that I should not go into that good land, which the Most High thy power giveth thee for an inheritance. But I must die in this land. I must not go over Jordan, but ye shall go over and possess that good land.
Mm-hmm.
Take heed unto yourselves, lest ye forget the covenant of the Most High your power, which he made with you, and make you a graven image, or the likeness of anything which the Most High thy power hath forbidden thee.
The Most High said, really consider. You cannot cross this particular disobedience. You've got to abstain yourself from creating idols and worshiping idols. Why? Read on verse 24.
Verse 24. For the Most High thy power is a consuming fire, even a jealous power.
The Most High is a jealous power. He's a jealous God. He doesn't want to share the space, the mental space, with any other idol, concept, or tradition. That is point blank, period. So, now let's get back into the story. So we're back in the two Babylons. We're going to get a little more on this story of this Semiramis person who is connected to Nimrod. So we know Nimrod took Semiramis, who was originally the wife of somebody else. Let's find a little bit more about this person. Okay. Did I read? Yeah, I read 45. I was trying to see if I. Okay, I'm gonna spill the beans because I can't find the page right now. Semiramis was his mother. Okay,
Right
so yeah, I know, but that's the origin. I don't know if it's gonna explain where he comes from. Semiramis, the woman that was quote unquote that fell in love with Nimrod was actually his mother. All right, so pretty much Nimrod seduced his mother. That's the story. So Semiramis, keep in mind, is the mother and the wife of Nimrod. All right. Now, if we come across it in the book, cool. I just don't feel like looking for it. It's not. It was just a small point, but it's gonna explain it over and over again. So I'm reading here. It says, the original of that mother, so widely worshipped.
What page number is it?
Sorry, this is page 26 and 27. So for those who have the book, you can go back and look at it later. It says this is the bottom of 26. The original of that mother, so widely worshipped, there is reason to believe was Semiramis, already referred to, who was well known as worshipped by the Babylonians and other Eastern nations, that under the name of Rhea, the great goddess and mother. So Semiramis is the same person that you hear that's referred to as the great goddess mother. All right, period, point blank. Anytime you hear that in history and mythology mythology, that is who we're talking about. It's not a different person. It was from the Son, however, that she derived all of her glory and her claims to deification. That Son, though represented as a child in his mother's arms. So historically, the Son was not represented as a masculine figure. He was always represented as a very childlike figure. For reasons, as a whole different class. For instance, Cupid. The idea of Cupid with the bow and arrow, the Cupid bow and arrow, that's Nimrod. So he was always represented in a childish figure in the arms of his deified mother. All right, so keep that in the back of your mind. So we're going to show how historically that same image was in all cultures in the beginning of time. So that Son that represented as a child in his mother's arms was a person of great stature and immense bodily powers, as well as most fascinating manners. In Scripture, he is referred to in Ezekiel 8:14 under the name of Tammuz, but he is commonly known among classical writers under the name of Bacchus, the lamented one. So, now we're getting more names from Nimrod. Tammuz is mentioned in the Bible. So when the Most High was angry at Israel because the women were weeping for Tammuz, that was who they were weeping, or quote unquote committing heinous acts in honoration of Tammuz. I'm not going to go into what they were doing, but in order to worship that particular deity, you have to defile yourself in certain ways. And they were doing that in front of the temple. That was in the Bible. So, I'm going to read a little more on this. It says, to the ordinary reader, the name of Bacchus suggests nothing more than revelry and drunkenness. Another association of Nimrod was partying and getting drunk. And the spirit that comes with that environment. The Diddy part. We'll say the Diddy part. That's how we can kind of associate that. That's where that spirit comes from. That's how you honor that particular deity. For instance, the Bacchanal Festival is still celebrated in Jamaica. The Bacchanal Festival is just a straight turn-up party, and where everything goes. Anything and everything goes. So you still see those hints throughout cultures that had nothing to do with ancient Syria, ancient Babylon. It just keeps going throughout history. Keep reading. It says, but the reason, it says, but it is well known that amid all the abominations that attended his Diddy parties, their grand design was professedly the purification of the souls, and that from the guilt and defilement of sin, this lamented one exhibited and adored as a little child in his mother's arms, seems in point of fact to have been the husband of Samaris, whose name Ninnis. As Samaris, the wife was worshipped as Rhea. All that's saying is, you get plastered, you commit sins, and the more sins and debauchery you do, the more your soul gets purified. That was the spirit behind it. That's what he represented. So now we look at our people, and why we wouldn't let that go. What didn't we want to let go? The fun. Yeah. And how I'm told I can be forgiven, and my dirt can be forgiven by having more fun. The more fun I have, the more purified my soul is. This is what this guy represented. This is one reason why we couldn't let this guy go.
And accountability.
There was no accountability. I don't have to be accountable for my actions. I can get even more and more into my negative, and no one's going to judge me. Yes, sir.
That's what I was saying. It represents that freedom.
Yeah.
So if Nimrod got married to his mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what did it say? That he was a strong man. He was
he was a person. They always had him as a child, but he was a person with great stature and immense bodily power. So it's a baby Hercules.
So for us, right? And we have, as parents, we have young men or young teenagers growing up to be men. We can't have them half naked in the house. Oh, they're grown men.
That's true,
right?
As well.
This is what happens, in the world. If they get loose, the father's in jail. I've seen stepsons with their stepmothers in the world.
Yeah.
Right. That's why if I go here, what you got? If I go here real quick, Deuteronomy 18 and 9.
Okay.
To get that real quick.
Deuteronomy 18 and 9.
Just to explain why we don't follow what the other nations do.
Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 9.
Go ahead.
When thou art come into the land which the Most High thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abomination of those nations.
Right. So this is talking about, after coming out of the land of our oppressors, right? And we're going to the land that the Most High gave us, right? But in our homes, we should not do as the other nations. It is an abomination. It is an abomination for your sons and your daughters to be dressing, provocatively, not covered up, right?
Yeah.
Put a robe on.
Yeah.
Put pajamas on.
Because all it does is creating a spirit that doesn't have to be there. For instance, I know when I was a kid, we used to get yelled all the time if the men walked around. We had a lot of men in the house. We only had 2 girls there, outside the mothers. And being men, we were cool with just rolling no shirts, but we was getting chastised and yelled at every time. Like, hey, you can't operate like this. Whether you're intentionally trying it or not, hopefully no, it's still, you don't need that spirit put out there. That spirit of freeness and exploration, and that we can't do that. That is completely off bounds. What you got?
No boundaries.
Exactly, but this is what Mr. Bacchus, Mr. Nimrod represented. There is no boundaries. Everything goes. Obviously, you can. According to him, I was dealing with my mother. That's what he was sitting here into. What you got?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this guy portrayed as a baby to represent, to give a false image of innocency?
Yes.
Okay.
Because with everything you're doing, if you're doing it for him, there's still an innocence behind it. And that's why his whole thing goes into how the more negative you are under his guidance, you're actually purifying yourself.
That makes sense, because then the mother would be like, "Oh, that's my baby."
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't necessarily know all the way because.
Well, I'm just correlating to what we're saying.
Because there's some parts of this. I'm not gonna go too heavy into it. There's different mythologies, but the main one is he was a baby, and he was a baby in his mother's arms. All right, I'm gonna finish this up. It is page 27. It says, to have been the husband of Semiramis, whose name Ninus, which is Nimrod, by which he is commonly known in classical history literature, signified the sun. As Semiramis, the wife was worshipped as Rhea, whose grand distinguishing character was that of the great goddess mother. The conjunction with her of her husband under the name of Ninus of the sun was sufficient to originate the peculiar worship of the mother and son. So all this explains the origins behind why the mother is now connected to the son. So when we're going on, we're going to explain. If you see one culture celebrating one, they're celebrating the other. They always had duality with one another. They didn't separate the two. Let's get back into this. So I'm going to go to page 49 now. Let's go to 49. Read this. This just is yellow. Yes, sir. Shabbat shalom, Israel.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, sorry. So this is page 49. So we're just getting more clarity on the origin and how far this history, this story kept going. Read on.
Okay, middle section. All right. Thus, from Assyria, Egypt, and Greece.
So the greatest empire, some of the greatest empires in the world, ancient Syria, ancient Egypt, and ancient Greece, which most cultures and civilizations have taken their structures, their governmental structures, their religious structures, and their moral structures and carried into their own lands.
Especially Greece.
Well, it's really Egypt, because who do they get theirs from?
Yeah.
And then who do Egypt get its from? Ancient Babylonians.
Yeah.
So all this still carries back, because modern day America is modern day Rome, but modern day Rome, but Rome was Greece.
Politics
and Greece was Egypt. And Egypt got theirs from Babylon. So all of them connected one way or another. That's why the stories are so similar. But I wanted to show how it wasn't just the great powers, it was the small pockets. Like we read last week about how the Polynesian theory was how this one hero saved the world by extending the heavens away from earth because there was too much pressure from God after the flood. These stories travel all over the place. But I don't get too deep into that. Read on.
Thus from Assyria, Egypt, and Greece, we have cumulative and overwhelming evidence, all conspiring to demonstrate that the child worship in the arms of the goddess mother in all these countries in the very character of Nimbus or Nin, the son, was Nimrod, the son of Cush. A feature here or incident there may have been borrowed from some succeeding hero, but it seems impossible to doubt that of all that child, Nimrod was the prototype, the grand original.
All right, so just confirming how this story that we're reading about the mother and son worship and how they all keep saying, or how the story was the son married the mother and they got deified together. That story was in Egypt, it was in Assyria, it was in Greece, which became the progenitors of most culture we know today. All right, that's all I wanted to pull from that. I'm going to get one more page in this, and then we'll go back into the scriptures. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to show how that image of Nimrod and that influence of Nimrod changed into more of an image and worship of the woman. So, this is page 70. I'll read it. It says, now, while the mother derived her glory in the first instance from the divine character attributed to the child in her arms, the mother in the long run practically eclipsed the son. Now, before we get into the specifics, you see that in modern day. When you go into homes, it's on the south side, what is the biggest image and the most prominent image when you get in there?
Virgin Mary.
It's the Virgin Mary. It's the Virgin Mary. What you got?
They have murals of it all over the south side.
All over the
and
place.
the southwest side of town of Texas.
God. The Virgin Mary is the biggest focus in the religion. When they pray, when Catholics pray, who are they praying to most of the time? They pray to Mary to get the answer to Christ. We got to pray to the Mother of God, quote unquote, to get the answer to Christ.
La Virgen de Guadalupe.
La Virgen de Guadalupe, exactly. And that's the point. They're praying to her to get the Most High's attention, or to get not even the Most High. The Most High is not even the entity that's even worshipped or thought of. It is Christ, but it's really the mother. Through his mother. The image and the influence of the mother became the long-running influence in the entire world, not just in modern day Mexican culture or Latin American culture. This was from the beginning. So we're on page 71 now. It says the reason being, it says now, what in these circumstances might have been expected actually took place. If the child was to be adored, much more the mother. The mother, in point of fact, became the favorite object of worship. So, Christ understanding this concept, that even him, as being Christ, who are they going to give his attention to? They're going to try to give his attention to the mother. We can prove that. Give me Luke chapter 11, verse 27 to 28. Because even though Christ was physically showing the works, the actions, the miracles, what do you think the people were saying? What praise are they trying to give? Luke 11 and verse 27 through 28. I know.
Luke chapter 11 and verse 27. And it came to pass, as he spake these things, a certain woman of the company lifted up her voice.
So hold on. Christ just got done dropping a dope sermon. He was disproving how he's not a child of Beelzebub. He's not a demon. He's blessing people and he's healing people under the Spirit of God, of the Holy God. And all this woman heard was what? Read on.
And said unto him, Blessed is the womb that bare thee.
She said what? She didn't say bless God. She said what?
Blessed is the womb that bare thee.
So what was the nature of the people to give respect to?
The mother.
If you're this dope, who am I honoring?
The mother.
It says blessed be the what?
It says, Blessed is the womb that bare thee, and the paps which thou hast sucked.
Why would they say that? Because it was so ingrained into our minds at this point. This was modern day. At this time, they're under the second emperor. I forgot his name in Rome. It was Antiochus. It was who was the
second emperor in Rome?
Rome.
You talking about Augustus?
Augustus. This is the time of Augustus. At this time, they had their ceremonies and their days to worship their female goddess. And Augustus, in fact, was heavily invested into the Church of Diana, which was the mother goddess. So society at the time was still, the main religion in the world was still serving the mother goddess. So the Christ came down, understanding this. His responsible was what? Read on. 28.
It says, verse 28. But he said, Yea, rather, blessed are they that hear the word of the Most High and keep it.
Does that mean the mother and her raising Christ and taking care of him didn't matter? Yeah, but why are we focusing on the mother and the paps which he sucked and the why does that matter? Why is that the focus and not God, who's giving me the ability to do it and display this power for you guys? Why you keep associating greatness with creatures? He said it's better, instead of focusing on the mother, focus on the power that gave me this. Focus on the power that has inspired me and helped me lead my people out of their confused state of mind. We'll get to Easter and how Easter correlates nowadays, but what was the mindset of our people during the time of Rome? It was still on mother worship. It was still on serving the mother goddess. This was a heavy plague in our culture. Not just the world, in the Israelite world. Let that go. I'm going to read this in page 23. Now the question being, Christ gave the clear-cut answer to the Catholic Church. Who are you supposed to be serving? The mother or the father? The Father in heaven. In their head is the mother. They must have forgot this verse. This verse didn't exist in their book. I'm reading here. Point 23. It says, in Papal Italy, as travelers universally admit, except where the gospel has recently entered, all appearance of worshiping the King Eternal and Invisible is almost extinct. They got idols for everything but the Heavenly Father. I'm not saying you should have idols of anything, but they don't even have commemoration and a thought of the Heavenly Father. He doesn't exist. I didn't go into heavy, but when you break down their version of the Trinity includes the Mother, a part of the three. It's the Spirit, the Son, and the Mother as the three, not the Heavenly Father. I'm not going to go into it today, but there's a reason why the Holy Father isn't in history, or isn't in their focus. Get ready. It says, there's all appearances of worshiping the King Eternal and Invisible is almost extinct, while the mother and child are the grand objects of worship. This is in modern day Papal Italy. Now we know the Catholic Church is wicked, but you know the reality is the Catholic Church has influenced the modern day Christian Church heavily. That's where it branched off from.
Yep.
So we got to kind of go back and acknowledge these guys are pushing the same theories and the same ideologies that was pushed back in the time of Rome.
So you saying originally the Trinity was the Mother, the Spirit, and Christ, right?
What I'm saying is how the underbelly of Catholicism is they put the Mother in place of God.
Okay.
That's why the Heavenly Father doesn't exist.
Okay.
In their storybooks, or in their, I would say, main focus of worship. All right.
Belief. Okay.
So, I'm gonna finish this real quick. I'm gonna jump down. So they're worshiping. Obviously, they worship. I'll put on the pictures real quick. I'm gonna put the pictures on the internet. People can see it. But you see the Pope right there bowing his head and praying to the Black Madonna. I'm gonna read it in here as well. It says the Jesuit missionaries were astonished to find the counterpart of Madonna, who was the Egyptian version of the great goddess, the Egyptian version of Easter. They were astonished to find the counterpart of Madonna and her child as devoutly worshipped in Papal Rome itself. So if the head guys are worshiping this quote-unquote divine figure, is it a surprise that everybody else, the billions of people under them, are following the same figure? No, it's not. It's not a surprise. Whether it be the black Mary and Jacob, or the black Nimrod and Samaris, or the white one that you see, I'm going to put up right here. The white Mary and Nimrod. Both of them weren't the Most High. Both of them, the Most High didn't want us to focus on. Christ said, focus on the Heavenly Father. He didn't even give himself credit. He didn't even say, serve me, or bow to me. He said, focus on the Heavenly Father. Right. Give him the attention. Because I already know you're going to make me an idol too. So, we'll let that go. Now let's go to Jeremiah 44 and verse 8 through 10. So we're establishing modern day Papal Church. They fall in line with worshiping this mother in the child's arms, or child in the mother's arms doctrine that was worshipped back in the beginning of antiquity. We're reading Jeremiah 44 in verse 8 through 10.
Jeremiah chapter 34. 44.
Before I go on, is there any confusion, any question about anything? Am I going too fast? Yes.
I had a question earlier.
Okay.
You were talking about. I'm sorry to bring that. But
No, it's cool.
About the boxes.
Okay.
You know what that's about.
Yes.
Just a quick question, not to drive away from the point. There's a word in Nagahasa he said about no accountability, right?
Yes.
Is it so let's say somebody don't take accountability for their own actions, is that another way to reverence them in a way, like kind of like, boost them up or something like that?
I'll say this. Israel's rebellious as a nation. All right. What I'm saying is to venerate and give respect to this idol, or to tap into the same spirit of this idol, is all about rebellion. Doing what I want to do, having the least consequence for my actions, and still getting saved. That is the idea behind serving these idols. Is I can live how I want, think how I want, embrace what I want, be as liberal as I want, and there'd be no repercussions for my actions. That's what they represent. So, if someone's out of order and they're rebellious at the time, okay, they could be acting like Nimrod, fine. But the spirit is, you can't stay like that. We all got rebellions. We all got times when we're sitting here not in agreement with the direction the Most High is taking us. But what he's saying is, I can't keep playing and entertaining that mindset, because that mindset leads into the idolatry. The idolatry of self. Covetousness. In the New Testament, it's called idolatry. Because the covet means I want what I want. I'm going to do what I want to get what I want. And regardless of the restriction, regardless of the no's. That is the same spirit in which these people are playing. All right? Did that answer the question?
Okay.
All right. Jeremiah 44 and verse 8.
Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 8. And that you provoke me unto the wrath with the works of your hands, burning incense unto other gods in the land of Egypt.
So what were we doing in the time of Jeremiah? Same old story. We're still burning incense. We were told by Moses, do not make no images. Do not serve other gods. And the first thing we did was do the same thing that we've been doing since the beginning of time. Since people got out of the flood. Make our images, serve our gods, live our free will. Because why is the Most High's way matter? Why does his discipline matter? Why is the direction he's trying to take me matter? This is the mindset that we keep playing with over and over and over again, and jealousy and anger in the Father. Keep reading.
Whither ye be gone to dwell, that you might cut yourselves off, and that ye might be a curse and a reproach among all the nations of the earth.
He said, you don't realize you keep playing with the spirit, and I'm just going to keep cursing you. But what did we learn about the spirit of Nimrod last week? I'll subvert the curses by just building higher walls. I'm just going to fortify myself even better. So you can't touch me. I'm going to make my surroundings, my physical surroundings stronger, so I can still do what I want to do and not have to worry about the consequence. That was what the spirit of rebellion and Nimrod represented. I do what I want, how I want, and as long as I have the money to back it, the mind to back it, and the resources and the people around me to back it, I'm charged up and powerful in this rebellious position. Yes, sir.
Or even modern day, I just get more security cameras to watch my back.
Exactly.
So I don't have to worry about consequences.
Because the thing we realize is, when you're not living after the Most High, there's a paranoia. There's a paranoia. Now I gotta buy more guns. I'm not serving the Most High's world completely. I gotta buy more weapons. I gotta get more cameras. I gotta have the weapon on me now. That spirit is, I know I'm off, but I'm not changing anytime soon. So at least I'm gonna have this on me, because you ain't catching me slipping. That's the mindset we had after the flood. That's the mindset we have now. We're gonna do what we want. I know I'm getting cursed. I identify I'm getting cursed, and I know what it's gonna take to change that curse. But I don't want to do it, because I like the fun I'm having over here. The fun I'm having while doing my wickedness. Do you read it?
Have you forgotten the wickedness of your fathers, and the wickedness of the kings of Judah, and the wickedness of their wives, and your own wickedness, and the wickedness of your wives, which they have committed in the land of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem?
Yep, you ready?
They are not humbled even up to this day.
What he's saying is, you're wicked. Your traditions have been wicked. Your traditions have been getting cursed, and you're still not humble. You still don't consider how my liver issues and my family's health issues have a direct correlation with the curses. Because traditionally, you eat this bad food in your line. You eat so much pork in your line, your family. You don't associate the pork with the curse. I don't associate the mass killings and the stress by having to be associated with drug dealers, with gangbangers, with a curse. That's just part of life for us. Instead of changing the direction that my family's been going, I'll just embrace it. I'll just live it. I'll be about it. I'll outsmart them. I'll be better than them. And they're negative. But we don't look at the curses as, this ain't going away until you humble yourself down and find real reasons how you get out of the curse. Biblical reasons. Keep reading.
Neither have they feared, nor walked in my law, nor in my statutes that I set before you and before your fathers.
All right. Jump to verse 15 through 19. So this is what the message Jeremiah had to the people. Trying to convince them to change their ways and to look at things from a spiritual perspective. Read verse 15.
Verse 15. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying.
So, all the men that knew their wives was burning incense. By the way, just so you know, a way to honor Semiramis, the goddess of the earth. You smoke marijuana. That's fact. That's in Isaiah. I want to say it's 64. It directly ties into the worship of that ganja spirit was the mother goddess. So smoking and getting high, you're serving idols. You're serving Easter, just so you know. Keep reading.
Detaching body from mind.
I'm not even get all deep with it. You smoke, you're serving idols. Direct correlations. You burn straight incense, you're serving the mother goddess. Direct correlation. Read on.
Verse 16. As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee.
So what did we say in response? I'm not listening to nothing you're saying. I like smoking. I like getting high. I like drinking, getting drunk. I like the Diddy parties. I like not having to follow laws and statutes. I like turning up on the weekends and it's getting loose.
They make movies and songs about smoking weed.
Look, that's modern day. We're worse now. I'm talking about back then.
Yeah.
We like them songs too. We was probably making songs too. We've been going over Sabbath, how we had them pots in our house. Y'all know what's in them pots? We like them pots. The pots with them images on there.
Yeah.
We like that. You know who that serves? The goddess of the earth. Because what was her symbol? Sexuality. Sexual fluidity. Do what you want. Be how you want. It gets deep. But it's the same deities, the same idols. But we like that. We like the tradition that comes with it. The fun that comes with it. I'm not changing nothing about myself. So you think it was hard for us to adapt Easter? When we got conquered? We blame our conquerors for bringing this poison into our house. For instance, I was watching the Nahuatls. I was researching Nahuatls. They're the ancient Aztecs and parts of Maya, I think. They already were serving the mother goddess in the spring. All you had to do when the conquistadors came is just change the name. You already serving Sintu or whatever the name was. Chicken Nahuatl. I don't even know. It's something like that.
Chicken noodle soup?
It's chicken noodle something. You was already venerating the spirit. You was already doing Lent. How about Lent was already in Mexico before the conquistadors came? That 40-day worship? I'm going to read it. I had the history behind that. It says, why the Roman Catholic Church put it there during the 6th century. So the Roman Catholic Church added Lent in the 6th century. It was around 560 they added. That's when, for those that don't know, you put the ash in your face and you give something up for 40 days, right? It's a sacrifice, quote unquote. It says, Rome borrowed the 40 days called Lent from the worshippers of Babylon, of the Babylonian queen of heaven. Surprise, no. Let my reader suppose that Lent is observed. Let not my reader suppose that Lent is observed only in the Roman Church or in anemic Protestant churches today. So it's not just served there. It says in Linyard's Nineveh, Babylon, page 93, we learn that Lent is observed in the Yezidish devil worshippers of Kurdistan, obviously. They inherited this heathen fashion from their earlier Babylon masters. Just to give a little context of Lent. Lent, that 4-day sacrifice, or that lamenting, that it's pretty much supposed to be a sorrowful time period, right? That was in commemoration of Nimrod when he died. So after he died, you fast and you feel sorry and you were grieving for 40 days. And that became the custom from the time after the flood all the way till now. That's how you worship it, you said.
And then the previous day is Fat Tuesday.
Yes, which is Nimrod. Because the part of Nimrod is you live your life and you're the lamenting one. You're a party or Diddy party guy, and you got to be sad and grieve for my death, for my resurrection. Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday. That's
those carnivals that be happening.
The carnivals, and not Jamaica. There was another one.
Rio de Janeiro.
That's what it was. Rio de Janeiro and Brazil. They turn up on that day too. The Most High keeps stinging. They keep stinging that country every time they do it.
What about spring break? As far as like going out to
Well, guess what? When the spring break starts? March 23rd.
Right around the same time.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. It's about partying and living your life.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Greek gods are out there.
It's not Greek gods. It's Babylonian. They're all the same gods, except at the same time.
March Madness.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this here.
Sort of.
I had another one. Is oh man, what are you gonna say? What you gonna say? I'm gonna find it here because it was
Tell me.
yeah, whoever had the hand.
Yeah, it was because Tuesday, Mardi Gras, and you know what happens there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
about heavily indulging in your flesh
and everything.
and any kind of lust you can think of, because you know Wednesday you
Yeah.
go fast. So you go hard on that Tuesday to indulge as much as you can. Spirit behind me, let me get it all out now. Whatever it is.
Yeah, bro.
Because I know tomorrow I got fast.
I got this to the mouth.
That's that go to the club concept on Saturday and go to church on Sunday.
Yes, it's all about that.
And that place, Las
You go-
Vegas,
you go
got
to the
nothing
party.
on that place.
And then you go to get saved.
I'm trying to find this out. It was
When in reality, you found yourself on Saturday
Exactly.
and you're going into opposing church on Sunday.
I gotta find it, bro.
It's the beginning of the week.
Um,
They think it's the end of the week.
Let me
You
see
should
it,
have circled
bro.
it when you found it.
Because I didn't think about spring break. That'd been a great point. That was in there. Anyway, point is, you see the traditions that we weren't trying to give up. What was tied to that? We can see it in modern day. You don't think we had those same type of memories associated with the negative on the left hand side back in the time? I'm gonna keep reading this real quick about the Lent. It says, so it's worshipped by devil worshippers. Okay. It says, and Humboldt's Mexican researchers. By the way, this guy is really racist. So when I say this line, don't take offense. He says, Volume 1, page 404. We find how the pagan Mexicans kept a Lent 3 days after the vernal equinox, began a solemn fast for 40 days in honor of the sun. So to honor their sun god, who's Nimrod, you fast for 40 days. And then one more person. Oh yeah. And Lancer's Sabian researchers, page 1112, we are informed how the Egyptians' Lent of 40 days was held expressly in the honor of Adonis or Osiris, the great mediatorial god. Mediatorial god. And we can see in Rome is by no means the original in observing the pagan Lent. So it didn't start in Rome. This is in the beginning of time. We've been doing this. This is no different. We didn't want to give those customs up. So when Jeremiah is saying, change your ways, serve God, be about me, all thoughts, I'm not giving my fun up. I'm not giving my traditions up. I'm not giving how I was raised and developed up. Keep reading. Whoever had it. In verse 17 or 16.
Verse 16. As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee. But we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth.
Yep. Because that is what those powers let you do. They give you the power to do what you want to do, roll how you want to roll with no consequence. So why would I give that up? Why turn back?
And not only that, but when you serve these different idols, they sat back here and yielded your fruits in your vineyards and stuff like that from based off of your worship.
Well, that's what we believe. So that's why I was saying earlier, every good thing in life we just associated it came with our idol. If the land was particularly arable that year, the nutrients was dense that year, and we produce a lot more than normal, we're not giving veneration to the Most High. We're saying that is Nimrod.
Yep.
We're saying that's Easter. So it's not like these deities are doing it. That's what I'm saying. These are dead powers. You gotta physically hold them up on the wall and make sure they stay in the wall, because if not, they will fall and break. That's not no power. That's not no God.
And based on what Mark Wallace said, if they are praying to these gods or burning strange incense to these gods to produce out of their land, don't you think that they'll go harder tilling the ground so that they don't look like a liar? I mean, you got to use reason.
You know, I love the story, for those that haven't heard it, about Elijah. Elijah was punking these guys.
Oh, yeah.
He said, look, He said, yeah, 400 these devil worshippers. You know, call your God. I'm gonna call my God, and we're gonna see who's gonna answer us. And he waited all day. He said, man, God must be on vacation. He must be asleep.
Yeah.
We'll wait a little longer. He said, he said, have your God light this fire on this water. And they're sitting here cutting themselves. We'll let you know what. Cutting yourself is also veneration to these gods. Fun fact. They're cutting themselves, trying to get, Lord, please, Nimrod and whatever her name is, Easter, help us out. Nothing was happening. He's laughing, he's clowning. Then he burns them all up. Kills all 400 of them in the same hit. Because those powers aren't real. They are imaginations and stories we've created and we've held traditionally since the beginning. But we believe so firmly in it because our forefathers believed in it. You go to your grandparents, they believed in it. Their great-grandparents believed, they lived and died by it. They went hard for these deities. So that's why we couldn't get it out of our head. Because now our whole mind is everything good, everything spiritual, got to be associated with those things. And then the peer pressure comes. Why are we the only gods, or are we the only guys that serve a different power? Everyone else serves these gods. Mm-hmm. Why do we have the strange God? Remember during the time of Moses, when they were going to fight, and the Moabites sent their young women out there?
Yep.
He says, we don't know your God. Why don't you follow the gods of the land? Who's the gods of the land? We know these guys of the land. We don't know your God. If you want to be with us, you got to serve our gods. Mm-hmm. That was the spirit that was surrounding us. We're the oddballs serving a different power. No one wanted to serve God. No one to give their life up and dedicate and discipline their life to follow a power that doesn't let you do what you want to do. Right? Everybody else gets to live how they want and act how they want and still under the illusion that they get saved at the end. That free will God. So that concept was foreign to us. Keep reading. What you got?
It almost comes off like when all the nations would come by and bring their different form of Nimrod, they would try to come at us like, you know what? Why are you still serving that old power? You need to get with the times. You need to update.
They didn't call him an old power. They said he was the new power. He's the new God.
Oh.
He's the new God of the land. Because remember, the Most High said in the beginning, he said, all the gods of the idols, or all the gods of the people, and nations are idols. All the nations only serve these people as God. And the Most High just let them do it. So, I don't even care. So that became their history and their culture. When you argue with guys like that, the divine feminine guys and the Egyptian mythology guys, all they talk about is these deities. That's all it is. They think this is the most ancient form of wisdom. And the customs and the culture behind serving them, they don't even know where that came from. They say it's Egypt. It don't even start in Egypt. It don't even originate in Egypt. But it all boils down to this. They think this is the oldest power or the oldest deity out there. So, I'll let you deep in that. Keep reading.
Burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, and our princes, in the cities of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem, for then we have plenty of victuals.
Yep. So they're saying is, we suffer now serving God. I'm not winning anymore now. I'm committing my life to God. Now I've committed my life to going to Sabbath classes and working, or not working, but going to more classes and going to Sabbath. I'm not winning as much anymore. I feel like I'm losing now.
It's an inconvenience.
It's an inconvenience because now your actions directly affect your success in life. When you're living your life under your guise, the Most High's not dealing with you as hard. You're not the focus. The focus is the children. Just like if you got your own children, you don't care what your children's friends do. Right. They're not important. What matters is what your children do. So you're going to punish who? Your children. You're going to spank who? Your children. So when they came in the truth, they were getting spanked consistently and not knowing why. And they say it's because we serve God now. So our old gods are pissed off. So now they're seeing us. I can't serve this guy. Let me go back to my Nimrod. Let me go back to my Easter. Keep reading.
And were well and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine.
Yep. Keep reading.
And when we burned incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings unto her, did we make her cakes to worship her, and pour out drink offerings unto her without our men.
So, I want to stop and emphasize that point. Ancient customs of serving the Queen of Heaven or Easter was what? Making cakes. You made cakes for the Queen of Heaven. And you poured drink offerings. But, someone else give me Jeremiah 17:18. That drink offerings wasn't necessarily for Easter, it was for Nimrod.
You mean 7 and 18?
7:18. Y'all ever heard that saying, pouring out for the dead homies?
Yep.
You know where that came from? Serving Nimrod. Because when you serving Nimrod, you pour a little drink out for him. Some dead homies. That. You pour some drink out for Nimrod, for Bacchus. He's the god of drunkenness. So you pour it out for Bacchus, then you get to sit here and go back and do what you got to do. He'll bless the party. That's where it comes from. Read that. Jeremiah 7 verse 18.
Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 18. The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire,
Uh-huh.
and the women knead their dough.
Yep.
Knead their dough
Yep.
to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven.
Uh-huh. So we've been doing this. We make our dough. Definitely gonna make our dough. Read on.
And to pour out drink offerings unto other gods.
Because that's how you honored Bacchus or Nimrod. Now, I want to focus on that cake part, making these cakes, because that was a major part. And guess what time period? Easter. Because Good Friday, you do what? You make hot cross buns. I'm going to read this real quick. It says, the hot cross buns of Good Friday and the dyed eggs of Pasch, or Easter Sunday, figured in the Chaldean rites just as they do now. So just back in time of Babylonians, when you had your eggs, your dyed eggs, and your confettis, and your bread, that was directly associated with serving Easter back in the day, as it is now. It says, the buns, known too by the identical name, were used in worship of the Queen of Heaven, the goddess Easter, as early as the days of Cecrops, the founder of Athens, that is 1,500 years before the Christian era. What is the first song we learned in elementary? When you got a record in your hand, you learn how to play music. What's the first song they teach you? The hot cross buns. One a penny, two a penny, hot cross buns. You've been indoctrinated since you was a baby. Didn't even know. Thinking it was a good thing. The hot cross, or making the Easter buns, Easter bread, was how you venerated the Queen of Heaven from the very, very beginning. You see how the customs were the same, they just changed the name, and they attach it with now we're serving Christ. We're going to do everything that the pagans did, that the devil worship did, we're going to say is now to serve Christ now. How backward is that? I don't understand if you didn't have a way to serve God. But we have in the Bible how to serve God at that same time period and what to be doing. And we chose the pagan customs. Yes, sir.
Just to go back to
Yeah.
what you were saying, youth-wise, because I marched in Bacchus Parade for 4 years.
Man.
It's the most elite parade in New Orleans.
You say it's elite.
It's elite.
Wait, that's in
the
August,
top
right? September?
parades.
Oh my
Not
God.
just that. And then there's one under that called Endymion.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, but it's the longest. It's about 30 miles.
Ooh.
All the rest of the parades are like 20 miles.
Yeah.
But I never knew that. And you see the float, it's got that drink in his hand. And
Oh, yeah.
I never knew that until I came here. So.
Of course. Yeah, because that is so, it's our what? Tradition. It's our culture now. It's not just, we make it more than just a religious thing. It's who we are. It's who we identify with. It's how we identify our cultures. Just like the Aztecs identified child killing. The Aztecs ate 1 pound of human meat every year. And they killed every time for Nimrod. Because that's how you sacrifice the Moloch. That's how they're identified. That's their culture. We identify with these cultures or with these traditions and take it upon our own culture. What you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say this tradition seemed the complete opposite of like Passover, as far as in doing away with the bread, but then you're making
You make the
hot
bread.
cross
You-
buns.
Yeah, you make the leaven.
in this particular day. So you're
Yeah.
making leaven, but scripturally, we were supposed to be
To
throwing
remove
away
all
these
leaven out of this
all
house.
the leaven out of the house. It goes completely contrary to, what the scriptures talks about.
And what about the eggs? Why do you have eggs from bunnies?
Not possible.
It's like, y'all know. Y'all know. Do bunnies lay eggs, brother? That don't make no sense, right? So we got bunnies with eggs. Chocolate eggs. It's for the kids. For the kids. They love the chocolate eggs. Why are bunnies hatching eggs? The egg represents what? Of course, the woman's fertile aspect of her body. And the reason why the bunny is used is what? Bunnies have a lot of kids.
Yep.
They have a lot of kids in one year.
You
Yeah.
you read it earlier in Luke 11 where it talked about the womb.
Yeah.
I ain't want to go there because as far as
Well, because it's blessing the womb and the paps. Yes, sir.
And that's what the hot cross bun song is you only give the son bread if you have no daughter.
Ah.
That's in the song.
I know the whole song. That's crazy.
Then you give it to if you have no daughters, then you give it to the son, but the focus is the daughter.
Okay. Because who eclipsed what? The worship of the mother, and the womb eclipsed the worship of the mother. But they're still focused on the same thing. They represent the same thing. So, now let's go to Mark 7, verse 6 through 9. So we're starting to see, before we even get to what Easter is, we're starting to see some of these customs that we've been kind of following and thinking was right as a people are paganistic. Lent was not originally part of Passover or Passover. There was no 4 days fast or 4-day absence of anything. That was pagan. So they added that into the doctrine. They deceived 4 or 3 billion people just off of that alone. Then you got these hot cross buns and these egg worship during this time. It doesn't coincide with anything biblical. What is that even about? But let's keep reading this in Mark 7 verse 6 through 9.
Mark chapter 7, verse 6. He answered and said unto them, Well hath Esaias prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me.
You know why he's saying that? It's because you might think you have a desire to serve the Most High, but you're not doing enough digging. I can't tell you how many times I would go to certain churches with my mother, who wasn't in the camp at the time. And we didn't even open a book. We didn't even open the Bible. Whatever was told us, that's what it was. That's just what the law was. I went to a Catholic church one time. That was weird. I went to a Christian church one time. I went to one that was about singing and one that was about just this guy was talking for an hour straight. But the Bible wasn't open. Actually, some of them didn't even give you a Bible. There was no Bible. It was a seat and you just going to listen and watch. So whatever this guy tells me, that's just what it's going to be. I can't even do anything. So we have the book in front of us. It's just dusty because we don't even open it. So if you opened it, you would see what holy days you're supposed to be following, what customs you're supposed to be following, and what customs, if you read, don't make no sense. If I'm celebrating Easter and I see we was baking cakes for the goddess of Easter or the goddess of the mother goddess, I would kind of question, hey, why do we do this? Or how about the Most High was stinging us in Daniel 10 about we were decking trees? Well, what is that about? Where does that custom come? Why do we still deck trees with silver?
That's for Nimrod.
That's Nimrod, December 25th.
Yep.
That's not Christ at all.
Nope.
But if you read, you start seeing these things. Man, this isn't making any sense. Because that's why your heart's far from me. You worship with your lips, but your mind's not with my mind. Keep reading.
Verse 7. Howbeit in vain do they worship me.
He said, everything you're doing and commemoration for your God, quote unquote, even if you think you are a Christian or a Catholic, you're serving God, it's vanity. It means it's not being accounted for anything. Because it's not what he wants from you. Because it's better to obey than what?
Sacrifice.
You're going above and beyond sacrificing, but you're not obeying what he's telling you to do.
And what's that vanity? That vanity is also lies. It's deceit.
It is.
Yep.
It's false.
And that's why he says that he hates and despises your feast days.
Come on. Because whether it be feast day, whether you knew it was wrong or not, you're still out of order. You're still out of alignment. You're still not looking for real answers. You haven't found the real answers yet. So, keep reading.
Teaching for doctrines, the commandments of men.
So the commandments and the doctrines of men that we've been told for generations as being right and wrong has subverted us and taken us away from the Most High. And we didn't even realize it.
Yep. And those are traditions and rituals and songs. And it makes sense now, like, because why do they have so much singing and songs in the church now?
To get the kids.
They don't have the Bible to give you a pamphlet or a program.
Because what sticks more? Rhymes and rhythms.
Yeah.
You remember a rap song before you remember a Bible verse.
Yeah.
You remember that. That'll be ingrained in your mind before you even know what the Bible says.
Then is pass the collection plate around.
Or
tithes and then you get.
You'll fall that law though. Y'all gotta tithe the priest. Yeah, tithe the pastor. I need a $20 seed. A $20 seed from y'all. Yeah, you'll do that.
Y'all
don't follow that long. But the real the weightier matters that Christ talks about. We omit the weightier matters from our following. Keep reading.
Verse 8. It says, "For laying aside the commandments of the Most High, ye hold the tradition of men."
What do we do? Hold on, read it again. What do we do instead of serving God?
For laying aside the commandments of the Most High, ye hold the traditions of men.
What has been the main issue with our people? We have our traditions. For Latin America, they have their own Nahuatl traditions. Which, guess what? We're still pagan. So I'm not changing nothing because this has been my family for hundreds of years, for 1,000 years. That means something. This is my culture. I'm not giving this up. This is how I identify myself. I'll throw away God because my family been doing this. You go to a Catholic church right now in the heart of South America, there will be riots if you tell them this is pagan and you're worshiping devils. You will probably be decapitated. You're not getting out of it. Is it a coincidence that Paul was running for his life this whole time? When he was going to Ephesians, talking to these guys about you can't follow the goddess Diana? No, I want your head. You got to get up out of here. We'll get to that story in a second. Keep reading.
It says, "As the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things ye do."
It says, whether it be the washing of pots, it's talking about the Pharisees, where if you aren't washing pots and cups, you're a dirty dude, you're sinning. Cleanliness is next to godliness. The Bible doesn't say that. But that's another commandment of men. If you're not cleaning yourself, you don't wash your hands before you eat, you're out of order. But for us, it's other things.
That's a household thing.
It's a household thing. I'm not saying it's not hygienic, but that's not law. You don't go to hell if you ain't cleaning your pots and pans. What are you talking about? If you ain't brushing your hands, if you're washing your hands before you eat food, you're out of alignment with God. What are you saying? What does that mean? How about the rosary? Is the rosary, right?
The rosary.
People think the rosary having as a lucky charm. You know where the rosary was first seen? During this time. On Diana, the mother goddess. That's where it comes from. The mother goddess. But we got it up in our Catholic church all the time. We carry it on us all the time. As a people, as a nation. You said what?
I was saying people get it tattooed on their chest, they get it tattooed around their arms, on their leg, etc.
I used to rock one all the time.
That's culture.
And when I used to rock one all the time, I rocked it so much that my mom got me a 3 gold necklace of the rosary, bro.
See that?
I had to give it back.
Yeah, we get it decked out in gold. Yeah. Kids I can't have this no more. I'm get decked out in gold. Or get it. The Christ figure, the cross, all that. All those are images that we weren't supposed to have in the first place. What you got?
But it's crazy though, because as a kid, when I was coming up, right, to have a rosary, it was like a sense of fashion. We didn't really know nothing about it.
Yeah.
I was working at HEB. This lady, she low-key kind of checked me one time. She's like, "Are you Catholic?"
Yeah.
I was like, "No." She said, "Then why are you wearing that?" I said, "If you want to be honest,
let's
I said, "There's this chick in my class that I like, and she's a Catholic." I said, but that's it. She's like, "Do you believe in God?" And at that time, I was like, "Nah, I don't." But then she was like, "Well, you know what? Just wear it, tuck it in your shirt, and hold it near and dear to your heart.
Near and dear,
and everything's
to your heart.
Gonna be okay." And I was like, you know what I mean? But
that ain't in the Bible. Just so you know, that is not in the Bible. But we believe in. We'll swear by it, and that's our culture. Finish that up. You were on
verse 9 now.
Yeah, finish 9 up.
Mark 7:9, and he said unto them, "Full well ye reject the commandments of the Most High, that ye may keep your own tradition."
Okay, so we went through all of that. to now explain the origin of Easter. The reason why we have this class was to show how Easter, it's coming up, I think it's the 20th or something like that.
Yep.
20th
for
if Easter, that celebrated day, is what the Most High wants us to do. We're starting to kind of see hints that maybe not, maybe this is pagan, but we're going to prove it. We're going to find out. All right, this is page 97 of the Two Babylons. We're going to find the origins of Easter, the word. It says, then look at Easter. What means the term Easter? It is not a Christian name. It bears its Chaldean origin on its very forehead. Easter is nothing else than Astarte, one of the titles of Beltis, the Queen of Heaven. So even the term of Easter that has been associated with a holy holiday in the spring is still venerating the goddess, the mother goddess, to this very day. Now, it says there's some other things that happened during this same time period. But the point I want to get into is, I think I'm on 98 now. It says, okay, the festival in which we read in church, this is 98. The festival in which we read in church history under the name of Easter in the 3rd or 4th centuries was quite a different festival from that now which is observed in the Roman church. So just so you know, Easter wasn't celebrated during this time in the Bible. It was Pasqua, or that was the Greek name for Passover. All right. So during this time, the Romans did have other customs and holidays that were for the mother goddess. One of them was it was called Ludi Magdalenus. It was on April 4th through April 10th. That was in Rome. It was originally celebrated on March 27th when the statue of the Great Mother was washed. This single day was in the 2nd century AD, expanded to several days, when games were held in honor of Cybele, the Great Mother, a goddess representative of a large stone brought to Rome by 204 BC, by the instruction of the Oracle Delphi, whatever. It says, so they had their festival for their mother goddess during this time period too. But the Pasqua was Passover. So when Christ was walking and he was telling people to prepare for the Pasqua, he was just talking about Passover. Easter wasn't necessarily a custom. That was introduced later in like the 5th century or the 4th century. So we keep reading this. It says, and at that time was not known by any such name as Easter. It was called Pasch or the Passover, and though not of the apostolic institution, was very early observed by the many professing Christians and the commemoration of the death and the resurrection of Christ. Let me see. I want to go through this right here. Okay. So, now let's go into Matthew 26, verse 17 to verse 19. Matthew 26, verse 17 through verse 19.
Matthew chapter 26, verse 17.
So now we understand Easter wasn't a thing, or the name Easter, the time and date wasn't a thing at this particular moment in the scriptures. Read that.
Matthew chapter 26, verse 17. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahushua, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, the master saith, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples.
Mm-hmm. Verse 19.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And the disciples did as Yahushua had appointed them.
So, you're right. I missed that point. He says, I will keep the Passover at my house with my disciples. Just proving the point, Christ celebrated Passover. And you know it was the original Passover, is because before that, it was during the time of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That night was a commemoration that you remove all bread or all leaven from your houses. So Lent was not mentioned in the scriptures. Baking cakes for the gods, for the mother goddess was not mentioned. Nor was any eggs mentioned.
Yeah.
That wasn't a celebration of that time period. We don't.
I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Yahushua had appointed them. And they made ready the Passover.
Okay. So, Christ celebrated the Passover. That's all I want from that. I'm going to get back into this book. And this should be the last time I have to reference this for today. So, we're on page 98 and go through page 99. It's the second paragraph. It says the festival agreed originally with the time of the Jewish Passover when Christ was crucified, a period in which the days of Tetralim at the end of the 2nd century was believed to have been 23rd of March. That festival was not idolatrous and was preceded by no Lent. It ought to be known, said Cassinus, the monk of Marseilles, writing in the 5th century, and contrasting the primitive church with the church in this day, that the observance of the 40 days had no existence so long as the perfection of that primitive church remained inviolate. Whence then came this observance? The 40 days absence of Lent was directly borrowed from the worshippers of the Babylonian goddess, such as the Lent of 40 days. We already read the other part of it. Now I'm going to jump to page 99. So the question is, why then change the Passover to Easter? Why mesh them and merge them together? It doesn't make any sense. There's already a long history of us just serving the Passover this time. Why insist on merging the pagan doctrine with the Christian doctrine? Why not just keep the pagans doing pagan things and the Christians doing Christian things? I'm using the word Christian lightly because we were called the first Christians. All right, it's follower of Christ. All right, page 99. To conciliate the pagans to normal Christianity, so pretty much to gather the pagans or get them accustomed to Christianity, Rome, pursuing its usual policy, took measures to get the Christian and pagan festivals augmented, and by a complicated but skillful adjustment of the calendar, it was found no difficult matter, in general, to get paganism and Christianity, now far sunk in idolatry, and this, as in many other things, to shake hands. Yes, sir.
You said complicated and skillful?
Complicated and skillful. Meaning, what they did was, they had their Bacchus Day, right? That was in September. And they had their mother god worship. That was in April, or like May. All they did was just change when you serve them. Instead of serving Bacchus in September, serve them in February. And lead up until March.
They had a whole
and then move May back and serve her during the time of Passover, March 23rd, 27th, and now everyone's all happy. Now everyone's following the same thing.
They had a whole council about it called the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah, it was the Council of Nicaea. That's when it went down. But that's where the skillful, it was complicated and skillful because you're shifting cultures. And to say this, it was complicated because to get to this point, there's a lot of killing that had to be done. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of murdering that had to be done. It wasn't an easy transition. I don't know if I have it in the pages, but the book goes on to break down how there had to be a lot of destruction amongst the Christian church to accept this new concept because they weren't down with it. They didn't want to celebrate Passover. Some of us were still locked into serving the Most High the way it had to be done. But through conquest, through wars, we lost it, and then we just assimilated. Why fight this if you can't beat them? Join them. That's the concept. So, let that go. Let's go into now Isaiah 56 and verse 11. So what was the motivation behind the combination of religious customs? Let's find out. Isaiah 56 and verse 11.
Isaiah chapter 56 and verse 11. Yea, they are greedy dogs, which can never have enough.
He said, hold on. Who's greedy dogs? Read it again. Read it again.
Isaiah chapter 56 and verse 11.
He's talking about the watchmen, the leaders, the pastors. During that time and during this time. What did Christ call? What did the Most High call? Read on.
Yea, they are greedy dogs, which can never have enough.
You can never have enough power. There's never enough money. There's never enough world influence. We need more and more and more. So we'll compromise whatever we got to do to get as many people possible locked into our program. Read on.
And they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look to their own way. Everyone for his gain from his quarter.
Everyone, all these false leaders and false structures were only doing this to gain more money, gain more social power. Yeah, remember, the papal church at one point was the world power. They were the ones who controlled the armies. They were the ones who decided who was going to war and who wasn't. For a long time in history. That's how much influence they had. But you can only have the most influence if you have a large majority of people believing the same thing, even if it's mixed with paganism and legitimacy. As long as everyone's happy and everyone's to serve who they want to serve under the same umbrella, then it works. Then you're doing something. Then you're getting rich. Then you're getting powerful. Let that go. Give me Titus 1 and verse 11. So like I haven't updated the verses in a while, but it'll be all right. Titus, give me that 1 and verse 11.
All right, Titus chapter 1, verse 11.
Yep.
Whose mouth must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they are not.
He said these individuals, these structures have to be stopped because they're subverting whole houses. They're subverting whole generations of people. They're convincing whole people's generation time periods to follow false gods and not even know it. He says these people most has a real problem with, but they're doing it for gain. They're doing it for riches. They're doing it for power. No matter the cost and who they're hurting in the process. Read on. Read from top again.
Whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they are not, for filthy lucre's sake.
And they'll tell us it's for the kids, or it's fun, or it's tradition. Subverting, confusing over 2.4 billion people. That's how many people follow Catholicism and Christianity that have these idolatrous customs in their main religion. You got a third of the entire world believing in this system, believing in this false doctrine, serving the mother gods, and they don't even realize it. For what? For money and power. These are extremely wicked individuals. But the problem is, we wanted it. And we still want it. And if we try to sit here and convince someone to change now, more times than not, you're going to get pushback. More times than not, you'll be looked at as an enemy. More times than not, you'll be looked at as someone who's trying to strip their culture from them, strip their belief system from them. Because we associate these idolatrous practices with who we are as a person, who we are as a people, as a nation.
When it says whole house, it doesn't mean, just where you live, this one address here. It means your whole family line.
Your whole family line.
Generation after generation. That's what it means by whole house.
100 years back, 200 years back, 300 years back, 400 years back, following the same idols, not even knowing. Let that go. Give me Acts 19 and verse 22 through 27. Acts 19, chapter 22, verse 27.
Okay,
19 and verse 22 through 27.
God. Acts chapter 19, verse 22.
Need you to read a little louder.
God. So he sent into Macedonia.
Yeah, Macedonia. Yep.
2 of them that ministered unto him. Timotheus.
Yeah, Timotheus and Aristus. Uh-huh.
But he himself stayed in Asia for a season.
So, Moses understood, not Moses, Paul wanted to get an outreach to Macedonia, which is where the Greeks were at. So he sent his 2 trusted followers to go handle business over there. Keep reading.
Verse 23. And the same time there arose no small stir about that way.
Read a little faster.
For a certain man named
Demetrius,
a silversmith, which made silver shrines for Diana.
Diana is the mother goddess. It's still talking about Astarte. All right? Keep reading.
Brought no small gain unto the craftsmen, who he called together with the workmen of like occupation, and said, Sirs, ye know that by this craft we have our wealth. Moreover, ye see and hear that not alone at
Ephesus,
but almost throughout all Asia, this Paul hath persuaded and turned away much people, saying that they be no gods
which are made with hands.
made with hands.
So what is he saying? This craftsman, whose job is to make idols for the gods, the mother goddess, was worried because Paul's influence and the work he was doing with his disciples was changing the hearts of the people. Which goes to show it's possible. We have the power to change the hearts of the people if our example is good enough. The only reason why it didn't work is because not enough of us believe that concept. Not enough of us wanted to change and conform our traditions and augment our previous belief systems and lock into it. But it was working. The influence was working. It was functioning. This was the world religion that was being subverted. Slowly but surely. So now they're worried. Now their money's getting touched. Now their resources are getting hit. Read on. Verse 27.
So that not only this our craft is in danger to be set at naught, but also that the temple of the great goddess Diana should be despised, and her magnificence should be destroyed, whom all Asia and the world worship.
So what was the world religion at this time? Anybody know? I'll read it again. So that not only this our craft is in danger to be set at naught, but also that the temple of the great goddess Diana should be despised and her magnificence should be destroyed, whom all Asia and the world worship. What was the entire world worshiping?
Diana.
The great goddess, the mother goddess. So what was the task which the disciples were set to do who were going to these nations? They were subverting whole cultures and doctrines that were 1,500 years old. Imagine the pushback from that. Now you know why. When you read on later, they had a huge problem. They were trying to kill him. They're trying to get rid of this guy because he was trying to subvert and destroy culture, tradition. He was trying to bring in a new tradition to them. Not my word.
I'm over here.
Yeah, well, read 28 through 41.
28 through 41?
Yeah, 28 through 41.
Acts chapter 28, Acts chapter 19, verse 28.
Yep, I'll update it real quick.
Gotcha. No, you're right.
All right, read on.
Acts 19,
we'll read it through.
And when they heard these sayings, they were full of wrath and cried out, saying, Great is Diana of the Ephesians. And the whole city was filled with confusion. And having caught Gaius and Aristarchus, men of Macedonia, Paul's companions in travel, they rushed with one accord into the theater. And when Paul, who would have entered into the people, the disciples suffered not. A certain of the chief of Asia, which were his friends, sent unto him, desiring him that he would not adventure himself into the theater.
Why? We'll stop there. We don't need to get on to 41. Because the point was, if he would have entered that theater to speak about God, he wasn't get done in. Because that influence, because it's affecting their money. Because that's really the problem. It was affecting their money. Had to be snuffed out. This is a world scale. It's on a world scale. The Pharisees didn't like Christ. He was affecting their power on their little small scale. Paul was dealing with world powers here, so to speak. He was dealing with billions of people believing in a singular thing. Yeah, they weren't going to have that money getting hit. I don't have the numbers on how much money these holidays bring in, but it's in the billions. You see, you come talking about God and how there are abominations and this and that. You're destroying multi-billion-dollar industries. Yeah. The Coke industry is getting destroyed. People don't realize Coke. The story of Santa Claus was invented by Coke, Coca-Cola. They invented Santa Claus because they had to find ways to persuade the people to drink Coke in the cold seasons. Because a soda is mostly associated with summer drinking.
Yeah. That's funny that you said that because Dawiyah brought that up in one of his classes that he went into as far as
and they have
that pagan holiday.
And they have Holy Week, or we say in Spanish, Semana Santa. People come from Mexico over here to the States to spend money.
Oh yeah.
So you see
all New York is going nuts. New York's going crazy right now.
All these foreign license plates over here If that were, if
We're like, oh!
Yeah. No, that's
a bad buddy,
bro. They have a place. They have a place in Michigan called Frankenmuth.
Yeah,
and that's like the capital of like where they sell like a whole bunch of ornaments, a whole bunch of trees and stuff like that, and snacks.
So are we surprised that they're so threatened by this? This is billions of dollars on the line here. I would say even trillions, because this is a cultural thing. The Christmas is more westernized, and something like that. Well, how big it is westernized. It's not as big in other countries, but at this time, the worship of Diana was a world power. It was a world religion. I can only imagine how much money is getting thrown around. The Chinese man is worshiping this guy. The Indian man is worshiping her. The Greek man, the Russian, not the Russian man. Well, they weren't Russians. The Turkish man, the Arab man. Everyone's worshiping this thing. That's a lot of money on the table right now.
Is Diana Wonder Woman? They say that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's his name.
Yep. There it is. Yep. There she is. She's a superhero. Right? She's a superhero. She is quote unquote Athena
from the land of Lesbos.
What? That's what she represents. But that was her. That was also her. She's in everywhere. Right? You ain't going any type of history storytelling, and she's not there. She gonna be there. But this is the world power. This is the world influence. That's why they won't come let this thing just go. There's too much money in the line. Give me this, y'all. Colossians 2 and verse 6 through 9.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 6.
Hold on, man. I know, man. Colossians 2. That's it. Yeah. 2, verse 6 through 9. All right.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 6.
Yep.
Okay. Colossians chapter 2, verse 6. As ye have therefore received Yahushua the Lord, so walk ye in him.
And this is why he's saying, as we're being taught again, we have to start walking and embracing the new traditions, the new cultures, the new belief systems that the Most High is re-instructing us to do. And we got to get rid of the old idolatry that has plagued our mind and our forefathers' mind for centuries and centuries. Keep reading.
Verse 7. Rooted and built up in him and established in the faith.
And this is why my biggest thing for people who are trying to learn what it means to be an Israelite, you have to learn how to defend yourself. Because you have to be rooted and built up in him and established in the faith. I'll tell you what, it's very difficult to say you're an Israelite in this world if you don't know what that even means. If you don't have enough scripture to show where this even comes from. What this means to be a true follower of Christ. Because there's so much tradition and history of these false gods that you'll get destroyed on just knowledge information. You've got to know the Bible if you want to sit here and proudly profess I'm an Israelite. Because you will get chewed up out there if you don't even know what this is about. If you're not reading enough and you're not studying enough to see, okay, where these come from, where these idols come from, what does it mean, what am I supposed to be following, what holidays am I supposed to be following. If you're not doing that, actively studying and getting charged up and not rooted in this, you'll be subverted pretty easily. That's a fear that we got to have. I got to keep studying, keep getting grace so I don't get pulled away.
That's why Scripture says, "Study to show thyself approved."
Well, you study to show thyself approved, but you also study so that this doesn't happen. Verse 8.
Verse 8. Colossians 2 and 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit.
Because the Greeks value knowledge. The nations value knowledge. The nations value their customs and traditions. We've got to be rooted enough in our customs and our traditions to where they can't deceive us and spoil us through their philosophies, through their vanity. What made Abraham so great is he was going into these nations and these countries and destroying their Nimrod doctrine, and destroying their mother God doctrine, and destroying their whole belief systems. He didn't allow anybody to subvert him because he knew what he knew and he believed it.
Or get destroyed by your own vanity,
that too.
What you value.
Well, which is that freedom?
Yeah.
Which is that reveling spirit of partying, turning up, not having control over, or not letting anyone control your life, so to speak. You manifesting your own destiny. All that is idolatry. I manifest my own reality. I make my own rules. I establish my own lifestyle. We can put that thought process too, because that's a constant philosophy that's drew into our head on a day-to-day basis. In the TV we watch, in the music we listen to, and the people we associate ourselves with. That's all we're being drilled with every single day. Keep reading.
It says, beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men.
Because what is the hardest part about getting your own family to convert?
That tradition.
That tradition is the worst. That is so ingrained. You got 50, 6-year-olds, 7, 8-year-olds that I'm not giving this up. This is all I know. You ain't going to change my belief system. Why about the Most High just let them pine away like that? But He's giving us an opportunity not to. Us an opportunity to see this for what it is and actually embrace the true understanding of the Most High. But we got to be rooted in this. We got to be dedicated to understanding what this truly means. Keep reading.
It says, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Yahushua.
Mm-hmm.
For in Him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead body.
The Most High dwells in the fullness of the power of the Creator of the entire world. Meaning the understanding of Christ is how you get an understanding of what it means to be walking after the Godhead. Let that go. Give me Wisdom of Solomon 13 and verse 1. Wisdom of Solomon 13.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's 65.
I didn't think it was going to be under 2 hours. It won't be, but.
John. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, and verse 1. Surely, vain are all men by nature, who are ignorant of the Most High.
He said, if we don't sit here and start associating spirituality and the benefits and the course or the driving force of our life as being the driving force by the Most High, we are vanity. Meaning our existence doesn't have a purpose in it. Keep reading.
God.
Let me reword that. It says, surely is vain and all men who don't what? Read on.
Surely vain are all men by nature, who are ignorant of the Most High.
Meaning if I don't know God's likes and dislikes, I'm vain. My existence is vanity.
And we're not really acquainted with the Most High. And how are we vain? We're morally vain, right? Figuratively, we follow idolatry, we make these idols, and then we're empty inside. There's always a void to be filled.
Well, and I would just say, meaning, if you're not serving the Most High, then your existence is vanity. You're just another number. That's what he's saying. There's another number on the earth that at the end will be wiped out with the rest of the 2/3. Yes.
Simple terms, basically saying, if you're not fulfilling His will, then it's vain, basically.
There was no purpose. So that's why when it's time for judgment, He's looking at you the same way. There's no purpose. Why are you here? You're not doing anything for me. You're just doing you. So I have no reason for you to be here.
You're not producing any fruits.
There's no fruits.
Gotcha.
You're not bringing any value. Christ said, if you're not, what was the term? I'm gonna butcher it. Hold on, let me find the verse. If you're not dividing, you're forming. Someone. If you're not dividing, you're forming. Someone find that. It's somebody. If you're not dividing, you're forming. Pretty much. If you're not dividing, you're forming. I saw it today. I forgot the verse. You're scattering. If you're not scattering, you're forming. Let me see. Don't worry about it. The point is, we need to do the Most High's work, and we need to be. Matthew what?
12:30.
What is that?
It says, "He that is not with me is against me,
Okay.
and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad."
There it is.
That's it.
Read that again.
Matthew chapter 12 and verse 30. He that is not with me is against me.
He says, if you're not with the Most High and you don't want to learn His way, His culture, His traditions, His holy days, read on.
He that is not with me is against me.
Then you're an enemy. Then you're the opposition. And He's going to look at you as an enemy. Keep reading.
And he that gathereth not with me.
And if you're not getting this information to gather more servants for Christ, read on.
He that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad.
Then you are inadvertently a scatterer. Or another word would be a stumbling block. You are the person that the Christian or the Israelite is fighting not to be. And is being tempted by. Think about that. If I'm not learning what it means to serve Christ and give my life unto them, then now I'm the image of I'm the image of rebellion. I'm the image of free will. I'm the image of Nimrod in the making. Now I'm an adversary to the work of the Most High. Therefore, that's why your existence is vanity. Now let's get back into Wisdom of Solomon.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13 and verse 1. Surely, vain are all men by nature, who are ignorant of the Most High, and cannot out of the good things that are seen know him that is. Neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the work master.
And this is a problem a lot of us had. We kept associating the works of the Most High with these different idols who were never real from the beginning. Keep reading.
But deemed either fire or wind or the swift air or the circle of the stars or the violent water or the lights of heaven to be the gods which govern the world, with whose beauty, if they being delighted, took them to be gods. Let them know how much better the Lord of them is, for the first author of beauty have created them.
God, it says we don't need to focus on the creation, the fire, the wind, the stars in the sky, the lights in the sky, the sun. We need to focus on it more. You know what's crazy? Esau would do more research on what the chemical makeup is of wind, and what the chemical makeup is of rain, the chemical makeup is of the sun. And how are the northern lights? What is that chemical makeup? How much phosphorus in there? How much nitrates in there? How much oxides in there? How much H2O's in there? They'll focus on that. How can these lights be different colors? What is it reflecting off of? But we don't give our mind to the Most High. That's what he's saying. We'll give all our mind to the sciences of the world, but not the creator of these sciences.
Call it Mother Earth.
And what we say is Mother Earth. But they're not even trying to understand that. Then, you know what? You're right. Let's say Mother Earth. But the crazy thing is, I lost my thought process. They'll call it Mother Earth, but it's not Mother Earth. It's not this feminine figure, this woman figure. First off, the Most High, the physical Most High, doesn't have a sex. So we're not going to give it a sex, but we know it's a spirit of a man. It's a spirit of power, and it's a jealous power. Because we give our mind to everything else, every other science in the world, except for him. Keep reading. Get you lost.
Verse 4. But if they were astonished at their power and virtue, let them understand by them how much mightier he is that made them.
And that's the thing. We're so astonished, my man, that there's got to be a higher creator to everything. It's so scientifically accurate. You listen to these smart guys, they're like, yeah, you know, I don't really know there's a God, but I know there's got to be something because the cosmos are just mathematically correct. They're arranged perfectly apart from one another. And they'll never intersect. And you guys are just talking this jargon with these fake numbers, but they're not giving that time, that mental energy to serving the Most High. They just want to know how they can create it themselves. Let me learn how to create life myself. Let me do God things. But you know who else did that? That was done in Egypt. When Moses showed them a sign to turn his staff into a snake, what did the wizards do? I can make snakes too. When Moses turned the river to the blood, what do they want to do? I can create some blood too. When Moses brought locusts, they created locusts. It's added to the problem. Because what is the nation always trying to do? They're trying to be God. They're trying to play God. And they're trying to deify themselves.
What they couldn't do is take it away.
And that's the problem. You add more problems to the equation. You look up. These locusts don't stop. No one understands the spirit of locusts. Locusts come in and destroy everything and disappear out of nowhere.
They create families.
You can't stop locusts. I just watched a documentary. It was and they're like, they come in this time period and they're just eating everything up, bro. And there's millions and millions and millions, and there's no stopping them. And then one time they just disappear. Science doesn't understand it. They don't understand why. Because they can just keep going at the Most High's command. But what's the point? The nations are always trying to play God. They're trying to be God. That's why the Nimrods of the world or the Eshes of the world are deified. We're always trying to deify the Creator. Keep reading.
Verse 5. For by the greatness and beauty of the creatures, proportionably, the maker of them is seen. But yet, for this, they are the less to be blamed. For they, peradventure, err, seeking the Most High and desirous to find Him.
He said, in times past, they're not as heavily blamed for their idolatry. Why? Because the Most High gave them idols to serve. He said, but now, you got to answer for this. There's too much knowledge out. There's too much information for you to still be ignorant. Now you're ignorant by choice because you'll hold on to traditions. But you won't give a thought to the Most High. Keep reading.
Verse 7. For being conversant in His works, they search Him diligently and believe their sight because the things are beautiful that are seen. Howbeit, neither are they to be pardoned. For if they were able to know so much that they could aim at the world, how did they not sooner find out the Lord thereof?
And this is the point. We'll give our mind to the studies in college. We'll get master's degrees, doctorate degrees. We'll get multiple doctorate degrees on the study of astronomy, on the cosmos, on marine biology. But we won't study the creator of all these things and be doctorates in the Bible, doctorates and professors and masters of the Scripture. We won't do that. That's not as fun. It's not as notable. This is why I'm saying you're not getting parted for that. The nations, the people aren't getting parted for this because there's too much out there. Keep reading.
But miserable are they, and in dead things is their hope, who called them gods, which are now the works of men's hands, gold and silver, to show art in, and resemblances of beasts, or a stone, good for nothing, the work of an ancient hand.
God.
Now a carpenter.
That's it. Let that go. So, let's get Acts 17 and verse 29. Acts 17 and verse 29 through 31. He says, it's a miserable thing to give your mind spirit to something made with hands that isn't even living.
Good for nothing.
It's a good for nothing beast.
You say verse 13.
No, 29. Acts 17, 29 through 31.
Acts chapter 17, verse 29.
Mm-hmm.
For as much then as we are the offspring of the Most High,
Mm-hmm.
we are not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold, or silver, or stone, graven by art and man's device.
I'll say this. When we first come into the camp or to the truth, we got to try our hardest to get those images out of our head. I swear, even for me who was born in the truth, it was hard to get those fake images out of my head. That's how deeply ingrained it was in my head. Because you see it everywhere. You see the fake Christ everywhere. You see the Mary everywhere. You see they make the movies about Moses. You're like, man, it's got to be this caramel looking guy. That's Moses in the kid movies. Or Christ is this white guy with a beach T-shirt and some shorts with flowing white hair, flowing blonde hair. Those images are stuck in our heads. We gotta do whatever we can. I'm not saying replace some other images. That's not what I'm saying. But just understand, those are idols. All right, keep reading.
Verse 30. In the times of this ignorance, the Most High winked at.
He says, at a time, he winked at. He understood it was the influence of the world. Read on.
But now commandeth all men everywhere to repent.
But we don't have that excuse anymore. We can't use the excuse, oh, this is just the world's influence. Oh, this is just how my mama did it. This is how my granddad did it. This is how my great-great-granddad did it. We understand, okay, Most High no longer give me that time to figure it out. I got to change immediately, as soon as possible. Now that I'm getting this information, I can't just rely on my old traditions, my old customs. I start figuring out what the Most High wants from me now. Keep reading.
Verse 31. Because he hath appointed a day in the which he will judge the world in righteousness by that man whom he hath ordained.
Which is Christ. Read on.
Whereof he hath given assurance unto all men, and that he hath raised him from the dead.
What he's saying is, there's no more time to be ignorant, because when Christ comes like a thief in the night, you don't get caught lacking with those idols in your house, with those idols in your pockets, with those idols in your mind, with their customs and traditions and your lifestyle. You don't want to be caught lacking in that scenario. Let that go. Zechariah 13 and verse 2. And then jump to 7. Zechariah in the Old Testament. 13 and verse 2.
Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 2. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols out of the land.
When Christ comes back, he's cutting off all these names, all these idolatrous figures and characters. He's erasing them from our minds. That's got to go. If we're going to be changed in Christ, these false deities have to go. And their customs traditions. Read on.
And they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land.
And he's eliminating the spirits that were pushing this force and pushing these deities on us and subverting whole households, whole generations, whole peoples for hundreds and thousands of years. He's taking them out because those structures and institutions are continuously plaguing our people by the millions. And we don't even realize it. Jump to verse 7.
God, verse 7. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, against the man that is my fellow, saith the Lord of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered.
He says when he comes back, he's going to smite the shepherd, meaning the leaders of these religious institutions and religious forces, to scatter everyone. What he's saying is, I'd rather cause the people to be confused and not know what to follow than have them under this garbage idolatry. So I'm going to take the leaders out. I'm going to take what it means to be a quote-unquote Christian and destroy it. I'm going to take what it means to be a Catholic and destroy it. I'm going to take what it means to be a Buddhist and destroy it. Because this is leading our people to destruction. Then, while you're scattered and looking for something else to follow, then I'm going to gather you all together and you're going to serve me now. Read on.
God. And I will turn mine hand upon the little ones. Verse 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die.
He says 2 parts of the world have to go during this time period. That's how deeply ingrained this chaos is and the entire world's mind. 2 parts of all mankind has to be annihilated. There's about 8 million people on the earth, a little less. That is about 6 billion, no, not 8 million, 8 billion. That's about 6 billion wiped off the face of the earth.
And that kind of reminds me of what you said earlier about why they brought the pagans and the Christians together. Because look at how many people will get wiped out.
Look how much money that is.
That's a lot of dough.
That's a lot of dough. It's a lot of influence. It's a lot of power. Remember, I told you, the church had power. They were a military. The church had power to destroy whole nations. And that's how they spread, quote-unquote, Catholicism and Christianity throughout the world. You have religious power, you can destroy whole nations and acquire more land and more power.
There's a lot of campaigns.
There's a lot of campaigns. But the point is, he's taking 2/3 out. They got to die. Read on.
But the third shall be left therein.
And that third is what we're striving to be. The 1/3 that makes it after this first purging. All right. Last verse. Yo, give me Acts 15 and verse 16 through 21. Acts 15, verse 16 through 21.
Acts chapter 15, verse 16.
Yep, there we go.
Acts chapter 15, verse 16. After this I will return, and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down.
He says the Most High is going to come down, and after he's scattered and destroyed, he's going to rebuild everything that the tabernacle of David stood for, which was righteousness and obedience to the Most High in Christ. Read on.
And I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up. that the residue of men might seek after the Lord.
He says all those scattered individuals that he took their heads from, that he took their idolatrous heads from, he's going to bring them all back to serving what it stood to be a servant of David, or what it stood to be a true Israelite, which is you're serving the Most High. You're dedicating your life to this structure and discipline and His order. Read on.
And all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith the Most High, who doeth all these things.
Mm-hmm.
It says, known unto the Most High are all His works from the beginning.
Meaning the Most High is watching all of our people that are scattered abroad, following these idolatrous customs, and He's choosing certain ones of them, along with certain ones of us who know Him, who know what He wants, to go into this next stage of service. Read on.
Verse 19. It says, wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to the Most High.
What he's saying is, when you've got new individuals who are so deeply ingrained in this negative, so deeply ingrained in this philosophy of the world, deeply ingrained in these traditions, I got to give you certain parameters to start. Because this can become overwhelming. This lifestyle is overwhelming. So I'm going to give you these parameters. I'm not going to trouble you on more than you can probably digest right now. Read on.
Verse 20. But that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication.
What that means is you need to realize and forget everything that these idols stood for towards you or for you. What did the idol of Nimrod stand for? The rebellion. The idea that I can force my course, force my way if I have enough smarts and money. What did Nimrod, what did the stars represent? Liberality in everything. Sexual liberality, mental liberality, unconfinement, fluidity. Everything that's contrary to the Most High. This is where the fornications come into. The fornications come into just divulging to every idolatrous or every unlawful pleasure that you can think of. To where now they become gods, become idols. We've got to relearn these customs, along with the major holidays that we've been following for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's the customs, it's the holidays, it's traditions, and the mentality behind what it meant to serve these idols. This is why class like this matter. This is why you have to figure out what it meant to be a follower of Nimrod, what he stood for, what it meant to be a follower of Asarte, what she stood for. Because these customs are still ingrained into our society now. And we follow it and we live by it now. Keep reading.
And from things strangled, and from blood.
Mm-hmm.
For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preacheth him, being read in the same synagogues every Sabbath day.
And I need to be around people that are preaching the true way to follow the Most High, to help retrain my mindset, to help guide me back in the correct direction. So I'm not continuously falling into my old traditions, my old man, my old custom, my own belief system. Does that make sense? Is there any questions? Okay. Thawad Israel for following, Thawad for watching. That'll be the end for the series. I hope we got something out of that. We won't be having class tomorrow. The brothers are out there in Rochester. And for the brothers that are watching in Rochester, shalom, Shabbat shalom, Thawad for watching. And I hope you guys have a good, safe time. Shabbat shalom.